before the fight started, while both guys were making the ring walks, I made a note of this because, I knew there's always a possibility Brandon Figueroa could win. So I said, look, I stated the following, and I quote: "Before this Nick Ball fight starts, it's worth noting that Brandon Figueroa is trained by Manny Robles, who also happens to train the WBO featherweight champion Rafael Espinoza. If Figueroa wins, this could be a potential roadblock for featherweight unification." Now, that's what I believe. I believe it probably will be. So I think one or two things are gonna happen. Either you'll get like some scenario of, Angelo Leo fighting Espinoza and Shushu fighting Figueroa, or you'll get Bruce Carrington fighting Espinoza, and you'll get Angelo fighting Figueroa. You could get that scenario where both guys in the division don't fight each other because they have the same trainer, right? Or what this could do, this might force Rafael Espinoza to move up to 130. Maybe Manny Robles isn't interested in that scenario. He wants to train both guys. He won't train both guys at the same weight class. So now maybe Espinoza goes up to 130, because if you look at the landscape at 130, in fact, we'll go right here. If you look at the landscape at 130 pounds, look, later on this month, you got the WBO champion Vaquero Navarrete fighting the IBF champion Eduardo Sugar Nunez. Those are two Mexican fighters. You can't tell me that Espinoza versus either Navarrete or Nunez wouldn't be big time, blockbuster fights for Mexican fighters in the 130-pound division, and it'd be a chance for Espinoza to become a two-division champion, not have to cut as much weight, right? Factor in also ranked there at number 6, because a lot of people, this gets lost on a lot of people. Even Ade Oladipo, who was interviewing Brandon Figueroa, he mentioned Venado Lopez, who's not even a featherweight anymore. Venado Lopez is now officially a 130-pound fighter. He's ranked in multiple sanctioning organizations as a 130-pounder. So he's not a featherweight anymore. He can't make the weight, right? And remember, if you guys remember, but before Venado Lopez got knocked out to the 10th dimension against Angelo Leo, the fight at featherweight was talked about, that was supposed to be the fight, was supposed to be Venado Lopez versus Espinoza. Who's to say that they don't revisit those talks and revisit that fight at 130 pounds? So I think one of those two scenarios is going to play out. Either A, you'll get the non-Manny Robles trained fighters, which is Shushu Carrington and Angelo Leo, fighting his stable of featherweight champions, which is Brandon Figueroa and Espinoza, and or this might be what Espinoza finally needs to go to 130 pounds. So I say all that to say and pose a question to you guys: is the featherweight division, is the hopes and dreams for boxing fans to start seeing these big time unification fights, is it ruined? Because I do think, it's going to be a lot harder for things to run as smoothly with two of the champions being trained by the same trainer. It just is. I'm sorry. Like, you can throw out all the scenarios you want of fighters with the same trainer fighting each other, but I'm sorry, like, the division is not going to run as smoothly as it would have if Nick Ball would have won the fight. So it is what it is. Nick Ball clearly wasn't good enough to win on this particular day, and the long-standing tradition of Mexican fighters and Mexican-American fighters beating up on UK fighters on UK soil, it continues. So I know a lot of British boxing fans. I know a lot of you guys get very pissed off when people bring that up, but people wouldn't bring it up so much if UK fighters would win more against Mexican and Mexican-American fighters. So I'm going to leave it at that. Shout out to everybody here. Let me go to the comments. I know you guys probably got some interesting comments in the chat. Let me see. Let me go up because I know I missed quite a few. Shout out to my man right here. He says, it's up for Leo and Shushu to take them out. I agree, man. And listen, I think Angelo and Bruce are very, very capable fighters of doing that. I mean, they both, I would say, if you're talking about, because Espinoza and Figueroa, they have a lot of similarities. I think Espinoza is a bit more skillful than Figueroa. I think Figueroa, you know what he is. He's a guy that's straight up and down. He wants to get downhill on you. He wants to push the pace, and he wants to have a high volume of punches and place those shots to the body. I think Espinoza has more skill than Figueroa, but they have the same philosophies. So yeah, I think it's interesting. It's a very intriguing time for the division. The best man won, simple as that. Great fight, yeah, man. But it goes to show you, it goes to show you, and we'll get to Nick Ball later. But like Nick Ball, I was very critical of him fighting all these 122 pounders. And I always tell you guys, you can tell a lot about what promoters think about their fighters by how they're getting matched. And yeah, some of those 122 pounders were good names and champions and undefeated guys, so they're not bad fighters. But it was one after another, after another, after another. How poetic is it? And I'll go back to Twitter actually, because I put this on my Twitter account. Going back to screen share. How poetic is it, guys? Because you had Nick Ball fighting Ronnie Rios, who was a blown up 122 pounder, right? You had, who else did he fight? He fought TJ Doheny, another blown up 122 pounder, right? You had what's his name? Sam Goodman, who I like a lot, who I thought maybe did enough to deserve the nod against Nick Ball. He was a very competitive fight, but again, nonetheless, he had never fought a featherweight. So a blown up 122 pounder. That's three blown up 122 pounders. How poetic is it that the first fighter that Nick Ball fought in his title reign that was actually a featherweight, he wound up getting stopped and damn near beat out the ring. So you can't. It's poetic justice, and like it says here on the screen, you can't witness protection your way to greatness. You can't fool me. I knew Nick Ball's time was inevitably going to come. Was going to come. I didn't think it would be today because Brandon Figueroa, he just hadn't really shown much in his last 2 or 3 fights. So congrats to him. He's worked very hard for this. I'm sure of it because like I said, he has had the best performances. Credit to him, right? There's been a lot of discussion in boxing about Teofimo Lopez and his dad, right? Like over the last couple of months in boxing, you've had Teofimo Lopez. People are calling for Teofimo Lopez to fire his dad and make a tough decision so he can advance his career. Same thing with Brian Pillman Jr. back in November. A lot of people were saying Brian Pillman Jr. needs to get rid of Brian Pillman Sr. to advance his career. Well, guess what, guys? Brandon Figueroa, much to his credit, he had been trained by his dad for the duration of his career, and his first fight with Manny Robles was the Stephen Fulton fight. And this was a second camp with Manny Robles, right? And he made a tough decision. He even lost. He even lost one of those fights after making that tough decision. And he stuck to his guns. He believed in the process. And look, it's went ahead and it's paid off for him. So you got to give credit because a lot of these fighters are having a hard time moving on from their fathers. This guy actually did. He actually suffered a loss in the process, trusted the process, believed in his coach, listened to his coach, and now he's world champion again. So you got to give credit where credit is due. I'm not against Brandon like that. Shout out to Brandon. Shout out to everybody. Let me see. Did y'all notice Nick Ball's teammate kicked Brandon's cornerman in the leg during celebrations? They're so losers. Yeah, that was Andrew Kane. He had a really exciting fight on the undercard against Alejandro Gonzalez, where he got dropped and got up the canvas and then came back and stopped a very tough fighter. But, emotions were running high. I'm sure he didn't enjoy seeing his friend get punched up out the ring and it got the better of him. So it is what it is. Nick Ball have to regroup. I think Leo Figueroa should be made. This was a fight that Fulton got in the way of. Yeah, this is a fight that was talked about a lot by PBC back in the day. It's a fight I would like to see. Obviously, two very good pressure fighters, two very good body punchers. I know it was a fight that was discussed, but sometimes for certain matchups, it's just not that time. And now that Figueroa has a belt, it's a possible fight. So I'm not against it. Figueroa's earned the right to get a fight with any of the champions. Shout out to my guy Matt Borgeson with the super chat. He says, if you want an amazing title defense, Sebastian Hernandez Reyes versus Figueroa. Imagine that fight. That would be an amazing hometown defense. I didn't really think too much about that fight, to be honest, because Sebastian Hernandez Reyes is a 122 pounder. But you know what? I'll say this about that fight. Sebastian Hernandez Reyes was screwed. In my opinion, he was screwed royally against Junta Nakatani. And you guys know, I got a Japanese flag on my wall. I fuck with the Japanese, but really and truthfully, I call it like it is. I thought Sebastian Hernandez Reyes won that fight clearly, and they didn't give it to him because they got this big Inoue Nakatani fight already booked for the Tokyo Dome, so they weren't going to let him get in the way of that. If Brandon Figueroa sees it in his heart to give that guy an opportunity, I think it'd be a very fun fight. Those are two fighters that like to get on that front foot and pressure you. So he wants to bring a fight to his Texas fans. That'd be a fun fight. But really, what I really want, you know what? I guess I'll use that to pivot into my next talking point. Thank you for the super chat, Matt. What I'll say about Brandon Figueroa and what I would like to see, right? And obviously he's a champion, so you know he's going to be able to do what he wants for the first defense. I mean, most champions get that opportunity. Normally, when you're a champion and you get that first voluntary defense, you pick whoever you want, unless unless you're Angelo Leo and the promoters don't believe in you and they don't really invest like they should and they make you go across the country to Japan. Then you don't get that opportunity, unfortunately. So you gotta be in unfavorable circumstances. But most champions, they get that opportunity, right? So if he fights in Texas, yeah, I would like to see him fight Joet Gonzalez because I felt like Joet Gonzalez beat him when they fought last year. Joet Gonzalez isn't Joet from Texas? I could be wrong, but isn't Joet Gonzalez a Tex? Isn't he from Texas, or is he from Cali? Let me see. I'm pretty sure he's from Cali. Yeah, he's from Cali, so I'm tripping. He's from Joet Gonzalez is from Glendora, California. But look, either way, that's two pressure Mexican American fighters. You know how Joet's gonna come to fight. He's gonna come and bring the action because that's the kind of fighter he is. I know I'm not alone, and all 91 of you here, you guys can feel free to let me know what you think. I thought Joet beat Brandon Figueroa clearly when they fought, and Joet's just one of them guys. He doesn't get the benefit of the doubt in most occasions. He didn't get it really against Isaac Dogboe, not against Brandon Figueroa, and there's a couple other fights as well that were kind of close. So I would like to see that fight. I think that'd be a good hometown defense for Brandon. It's a guy that's credible. It's a guy that's fought for the world title. It's a guy that he's fought before, so they had that familiarity. But we'll see how it goes. What do you guys think? I was very frustrated watching the Nick Ball fight because I was thinking to myself, I was like, damn, Joet Gonzalez has been one of these hard luck fighters in boxing throughout his career, and really and truthfully, like, I thought Joet would have beat Nick Ball today, the Nick Ball that showed up today. And so I was frustrated watching the fight. But again, Brandon won. Why not revisit it? Because the way Brandon was talking, I mean, we'll see what happens because you never know what kind of offers promoters will make. And he just won the title like 5 minutes ago. But honestly, unless a big deal comes into where he's gonna have to fight a unification fight, I think he's going to get a voluntary defense probably in his hometown, and it'll be against someone probably not as good as Joet and not as good as Sebastian Hernandez Reyes. So we'll see how it all